Okay. So I'm going to create a Google Doc, Google Sheets. So I'm going to go to my favorite Google Sheets and select a blank one. And the first thing I'm going to do is label this untitled spreadsheet. I'm going to call it Primitive Theater Production. All right. And I'm just following along what I've created here. So the first column that I label stuff on is A, but it's on row 3. So I'm going to check this out as shots. And then I hit the tab, and that moves me over to 3B. And I call this description. I can spell. The next one is inspiration. And then sketches, animatic. And even though we're not using animatic, I'm just going to label it animatic for you guys to think about in the future. Because when you go to the next, at some point when you guys are building bigger projects and you have more time, you definitely want to be doing animatics. The next one is models. And then rigs. And then textures, lighting, sound, animation. And then I said effects. That's not how you spell effects, but that's how we spell it in the industry. Special effects. You could put SFX if you wanted to, but you get the idea. And then render. So I'm typing all this out on row 3. And then I'm going to abbreviate compositing. I'm just going to put comp for compositing. And that's it for now. So I'm going to go back over to the left. And the next row or the next column I type out on is C, pre-production. On line 2C, I'm going to type out pre-production. 3, and I'm going to capitalize these because these are the bigger ones. So I'm going to lock my caps. Pre-production. And that's going to cover column B, C, D, and E. So I have to spread this out a little bit more so you guys can see some more tools. So each one of these words that I've typed out so far has its own column. But this one, I want it to be longer because I'm actually going to hold it to over a couple of these columns. So I'm going to select these 3, what it's called, boxes, 2C, 2D, and 2E. And I'm going to go over here to merge cells. And I'm just going to click on the options to show you what your options are. Merge all, merge horizontally, merge vertically, unmerge. Mostly I use merge all and unmerge. So I'm just going to hit merge all. And you can see now those boxes all become one box. I'm going to do the same thing above it for C and D. 1 C and D. I'm going to call this week 3. Just WK for abbreviation. WK3. And I'm going to merge 1C and 1D. So merge cell. Oops, actually, I have to go through and select merge all. There we go. And then, so we F through L is all production. So I'm going to select F through L in my And this is still row 2, F2L. I can merge it now. We just type it later, I guess. But this is going to be labeled production with my all caps block. And then M and N, 2M and 2N are my my post production. Let's see. So I'll merge these guys and then type in post production. So I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to finish the rest of this week 3. That's on row C1 through CB. And then E, I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm going to leave it alone. F is going to be week 4 through 6. Control C, Control V. Oh, not what I wanted. It still remembers that I copy pasted the class email. Control C.
You're doxing us.
Yep. So I'm cheating because I'm getting tired of typing. I'm just copy pasting this thing. Um, um, 11 through 13. And I'm just kind of doing this. I'm not really paying attention. I want to make sure that I'm in the right columns. So K was 11 through 13. So I'm doing good. And then I'm going to skip L and go to M and N are 14 and 16. Control C, Control D. And then I'm going to merge these two. There we go. All right. So this, this doesn't look quite like my Google Sheets over here. It's not colorful. It's not bold. It doesn't have the borders done. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Before I do though, I want to show you how to make this a little bit bigger. Of course, I could just expand this, but if especially if you get a longer schedule and you want to add further weeks than just 16 weeks, you can. I'm at 100%. I can just make it 75% and get smaller, or 150% if I want to zoom in. And I thought there was also a slider that you could use to zoom. I don't see it, but yeah, that's an easy way to zoom in and out. So let's take what we have. I'm gonna select everything, make a box from 1A to 3N. N is in Nancy. And all the stuff that I have selected, if I'm going to type, I want all these letters to be bolded. So it's really simple. You just click on the bold icon and it just makes everything bold. So it stands out a little bit better. So as far as these borders, oh, sorry, one more thing before I go to borders. You can see that all my, well, this isn't as obvious because I don't have as much written in here. I'm going to go back to mine for a second, my production schedule. So the primary categories, pre-production, production, post-production, and then all this stuff, they're all bolded, but then anything that I write in here below it, I haven't bolded. Well, maybe the exception of this task, because that's an important thing that I need to do this week. And even though we're not in April, I'm going to go ahead and skip and do this one first because of my own personal schedule. But what I also want you to notice is in the description, all of my text is left justified, where everything else in this spreadsheet is center justified. That's just the way I like to organize it. Looks better to me. So to justify those, again, 1M through, oops, sorry. Let me just make it bigger. There we go. I want to make a marquee around all this stuff. And here's the, well, they call it align, but horizontal line. I'm going to change that to center align right in the middle. And everything just looks much cleaner for me. And to make borders around all this stuff, I'm going to select individual windows. Also, one thing I wanted to point out, sorry. This, you don't have to do this, but I don't like having just random boxes that are empty. So I kind of merge them so that it just kind of cleans things up. You don't have to do this, but I know I don't need these guys. I'm not putting any information there. Maybe I could put my title there, but it's already up here. So I'm just going to merge these guys. And I already merged this guy. So then from here, I'm going to start creating borders around my little boxes. So if you just click on, if you have one selected and you just click on borders and you click nothing, you can see it didn't give me a border. You actually have to go through and select borders. And then with this Dropbox, what I'm mostly doing is just outer borders. And just keep doing that for all of them. Actually, to make this faster, I should be able to just grab all these guys at once. I'm going to go over here to, instead of individually, I'm going to select this guy as all borders. So that's a lot faster. Maybe I'll do these guys that way too. All right. You guys have any questions yet? Everything's pretty straightforward.
So far, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not going too fast. All right, so let me minimize this for a second. So I gave you guys I think I gave you 6 shots. You don't have to use 6 shots. In fact, I would discourage you from using 6 shots. Try to use as few shots as possible, as few camera changes as possible. If you do 1, that may not be enough, but you know, I just put 6 here. You can eliminate these if you don't need them. So I'm just going to label these 1, and then I hit the down arrow, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these are right justified, and I don't like right justified. So I'm just going to grab these guys, center justify them. And another thing I don't really like is a lot of empty space when you have all the, just a single number for all this empty space. So I'm going to shrink this column down. So you hover over the middle space between these 2 boxes, and you just pull it closed. Maybe half as wide is all I need. That's a lot better. Now the descriptions, you can see my descriptions from my thesis project. The miracle, reporter, before the miracle, monarchs migrated. Just a few words. You don't want to spell out a whole sentence or a paragraph in here. You just something that's going to very quickly remind you what this shot is about. I'm afraid. I know exactly what that's about. The tear gas comes out in this shot. So just something in your shot that's going to remind you. That's all you need. The colors are really easy to select. And again, you don't have to necessarily use my red, yellow, green, gray, or black, but you do have to use some form of red, yellow, green, gray, or black. So we haven't done any, we haven't done any of this stuff. So I'm going to select all this, and these are all going to be red because we haven't done any of it. So I'm going to go over here to this fill color, this bucket here. And these are the ones that I chose. This yellow, this red, this yellow, this green, and this, actually not that orange, but those are the 3 for the production. And then this was the gray for not applicable, and this was the black for cut the scene. So I'm going to turn all of these red right now because we haven't done any of these, except for effects. I'm going to go back through and select effects, and let's just assume that we're not going to have time to do effects this semester. So I'm just going to go back to here and change it to gray, which means it's not applicable. We're not going to bother with this. We're also not going to bother with animatic. And then let's see what else. Yeah, you can individually, you can, I wouldn't want to put each one of these boxes in their own individual, that just, if you do that to all of this, it just starts to get a little too messy. So what I do, what's important to me are the columns. So I'm going to select these columns, and I'm just going to put a box around the column. Just around the column. Yeah, each one of these individually. And I don't know if you guys are, I assume you guys are pretty visual people because you're in animation. But what's really cool is, oops, let me do that one. I use the same, for my church. We have something that's called ministering, and each one of the men in the church and each one of the women in the church are assigned families or people within our congregation to keep track of. To, just once a month, check on them, see how they're doing, see if they need their, right now in the snow, to see if they need their, what's it called, their sidewalks shoveled, or if they have heat, whatever. Just just to be a good friend. And I was put in charge of kind of keeping track of everybody. So I made the same exact spreadsheet. I just, instead of shots, I put people's names here. And sadly, very often what we call our ministering is not, we don't really pay as much attention to it as we should. But when I did this and I followed up with people, we got 100% ministering. So all these, we didn't have models rigged. We had different, I just had a single name, and they went from red if I hadn't contacted them to yellow if I had contacted, maybe by phone, but I haven't visited them, and then green when I actually visited them. So it was the same process, and it was a very effective way to just keep information organized. So you don't have to use this just for production, but it's a really easy way to keep track of things that need to get done. And then the other thing that I kind of skipped over, well, I haven't skipped it. We did talk about it, but I didn't really. So making this stuff too. Because you guys don't have a really long production schedule, like with a whole bunch of shots like mine, I moved mine over to the legend and the props and the environment, audio, all these buttons or these different categories. I moved them to the right just so that they could fit all on my screen better. Because I have too many rows I don't want to have to go down here and then go back up here. I like to see as much of my whole entire production at once as possible. So, but you guys with a smaller production schedule, yeah, maybe you just drop them under here. So this is an example I could just take. Yeah, these guys. Copy paste these guys. Control C. Control V. Well, didn't quite work. I guess I could do them one at a time. It'd probably be better. So just as a reminder for you guys, I would go ahead and copy this legend just like it is. With a less than 50% means that you have, you really need to get busy on that piece of the production process. And then 50% is your halfway mark. 100% is it's done, not applicable. NA is not applicable for that's what grade means. And then if you cut it, it's black. V. Oh, we'll do it that way. I just want to. Oh, so that's another thing I forgot to show you. So this didn't copy over that I wanted it to. I don't want all this stuff to be boxed in. So I'm going to select all those boxes, go back to, oops, sorry, not that. You don't want to merge them. You want to go to borders and then clear borders. So I'm going to redo those. This time I just want one big border around the whole thing and then maybe just a small border around the first box. There's my props, and then I'll do my cast. Let's see. Control V. And again, same thing. In fact, what I can do, instead of going back and forth and doing now, I could just copy this guy because it's correct. Control C. Paste it here. Control V. And then just rename it. It's probably a faster way to do it instead of having to go through it. So just make sure that your caps aren't locked. So you guys don't really have, I guess you can have a cast, or you can call it cast or slash, I guess, characters or models, whatever's easier. And then environments, maybe I'll put these two right on top of each other. Control C, Control V. And open these up again. So hopefully you won't have more than one environment. Hopefully it'll just be one environment that you can stay in. Just so it's less work for you guys to actually complete this project. And then audio, maybe I'll have a couple of sounds of audio here. So that's pretty much it. And you guys will fill this out and give us a good feel for how your progress is coming on a weekly basis. If you've gotten everything taken care of as far as the models. So another thing I wanted to point out, sorry, let me just put this in real quick. That's right. Okay. If you look at mine, so I have this big old shot list, and if this is an 8.5 minute piece, you know, generally this would be a nice size piece for a little production studio, depending on how many people they have and what other projects they have. So when I was working at Real Effects on Open Season 3, these shots were assigned to different, I mean, there wouldn't really be a description. Well, there would be another column and it would have my name or the animator next to me on shot 2 or the animator next to them on shot 3. So these shots were all assigned to different animators. And so let's say in this 33 shots, let's say there's 3 scenes, beginning, middle, and end. Let's say the I don't know, 1 through 12, shots 1 through 12. So of course I should probably, to be more accurate, I would create another column and call all these shots underneath that, create a column called scene 1, and then this would be scene 2, and then this would be scene 3. And those scenes were, we'd have lead animators or supervising animators or senior animators that would be in charge of those scenes. So they would follow up with the animators to make sure that their shots were done. So we don't have to really do that because this isn't a team project, but that's just how this would work in the context of a studio environment. Any questions, any thoughts, anything you guys need? Everyone pretty much knocked it out, or do you guys need a little bit of time?
Pretty much good.
Yeah, pretty much good on my end too.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing, and then we'll pick up your presentation where you guys will share some of your images or drawings or a little clip from YouTube or something. And I'm gonna stop the video too. Stop the clip.